So whether it was pretty or not, the Toronto Blue Jays have technically done what they've had to do over the last 10 games, which is go 7-3 and split a series against the Baltimore Orioles. Hello and welcome to the Walk-Off, everybody. I'm Scott Belford, joined by our best interim co-host in the business, Joel LaFlamme. Hey, call me on TikTok. Buddy, I am kind of excited to get to be a little bit positive on this show. I know that some folks are going to say we're bordering on delusional, but we're not dead yet, Joel. This team is not dead yet.
Not dead yet. That is accurate. We're not dead yet. There'll be a time where we'll be looking at the corpse and we'll be like, well, it's alive. There isn't any brain activity. The heart's still beating. A bunch of machines are keeping it alive. That kind of feels the way it is, but yeah, the corpse has life.
That's why I want to be a little bit positive right now, because we will look back at a point, most likely, fingers crossed, that obviously we're all eating our words and hailing Ross Atkins as the genius that he knows he is. But in case things unroll like they seem like they're going to unroll, there will be a time where we look back on June 7th and go, why didn't I just put a little bit more enjoyment into that team at that point when they weren't a dead corpse on the side of the road, right? And this team is 30-32. But again, man, they've gone 7-3 over the last 10. Yes, I know. That includes the White Sox. I'm well aware. But they did just split a series against the Baltimore Orioles. You don't need to tell me about the 24-12 run differential. It doesn't matter how they did it. They did it. So let's talk that series a little bit here. I don't know. I know right before I hit record, I brought this up. But watching that Baltimore Orioles lineup, when they pop it up on the scoreboard, and it shows all of their OPS, and you're heading down this list of players, and it's 800, 750, 901, 800, 800. Like literally over this last 4 days, you had to, for the most part, wait until the 8th hole of the Orioles lineup before there was a guy with an OPS below the league average. Not just below, like we're talking these guys are 50 points above the league average until that point. And the Jays managed to take 2. Is there, without getting too delusional, is there reason to be a little optimistic here that they can maybe continue to build off beating one of the best teams in baseball?
A little bit. I think a little bit. I don't want to go fully onto, yes, it is a split with the Orioles, but to me, it's it's a situation where one of the games is a rookie starter getting his first time in Major League Baseball, getting his debut patch on the old arm there. It's kind of a situation where I look at the 2 wins by Baltimore, those blowout wins, right? And it's like you can't really spin those games where we win them. Those are pretty much automatic losses, right? And then the 1-run games that we won, those aren't automatic wins for the Blue Jays. So it's a split, but I feel like you play that series to the same tune. It's never going to be 3-1 Blue Jays. It's never going to be a sweep for the Blue Jays. But I think you play that exact series out again, there's a 50% chance it's 3-1 Orioles or a 10% chance that it's a sweep by the Orioles.
And that's the thing. This was a 3-2 win and a 6-3 win. So I was off.
5.
It was
5.
Oh yeah, they
Jimmy
did
gave
hit.
up a 2-run in the
right.
ninth.
That's right. It's funny. I was even at the game, and yeah, forgot about that home run. Then they just made us sweat right at the end there.
Just right at the end.
But it does. I'm even wrong on my math. I said it was 24-12. It was 24-9. Was was the how badly the Jays were outscored. But they did show a little life. I will give them credit for that game on Wednesday. This is a team with their back against the wall. They needed a win, and bottom of the ninth, walk-off win. Wasn't pretty, but they had some big hits when they needed it. IKF continues to be far superior to the player we had originally anticipated getting. His bat has been right around league average. He's come up with some big hits and has been the defensive stalwart that we were expecting him to be. Davis Schneider. This is a guy who's getting all-star votes, man. And why wouldn't he? He's been arguably the best hitter on this team this year.
Yeah. I absolutely agree.
So they're going into a series against Oakland. In Oakland. And
for the last time ever.
For the last time ever. It's kind of sad, man. Like, that Coliseum sucks, but Oakland has such a storied franchise. Like, the history of the Oakland Athletics. It is such a bummer that this is something Major League Baseball is prepared to lose so that John Fisher can get richer. I mean, I know there's more to it than that, but it sure feels like that's all it really breaks down to, right?
Is there more to it than that? I don't think so.
I don't know, right? Like, I really don't think so. I think you're right. I think that's why the hatred and the vitriol is so rampant amongst Oakland fans, is that they know exactly what this is about, which is they don't want to pay taxes on the building, right? They don't want to buy the building. They want taxpayers to build it, which is basically what Las Vegas has laid out for them. So
it's Major League and Moneyball, but with a sad ending. You know, with the team picks up and they leave, and Rachel Phelps gets what she wants, and she gets to be a part of the country club, and they don't rip off that final part of the like little poster to show her boobs. They never get to that win, and
so they go to Oakland. Rachel Phelps winning it all here.
Yeah.
Late games, if you're on Eastern time here, so they're going to be 9:40 start today, 4 tomorrow, and 4 on Sunday. Without putting a must-win on this, there's no way around it. You must win.
Yeah, it's must win. You put a must
this is
win
must win. They're like, this is the hole that this team has dug themselves. Is that we are sitting here June 7th and we're talking about a must win. And I frame it this way because if you have not looked into the schedule in June, it is a meat grinder. It is ridiculous. They face the Milwaukee Brewers after Oakland. Milwaukee, of course, the top of that NL Central. The Cleveland Guardians, they go into Cleveland on the 14th. Cleveland comes to Toronto on the 14th, 15th, 16th. Followed by the Boston Red Sox. Both of these teams are above 500. The Red Sox have been a formidable team. We have yet to play them this year. Cleveland, are they the best team in baseball, Joel?
Oh, I don't know about that, but they are sure surprising a lot of people. And I watched this article, well, not an article, I watched this video about how the stadium design has drastically changed their home run approach. They removed a bunch of like barriers that were in the outfield wall, and it creates this like wind tunnel effect that takes the ball out into right field now. And apparently balls with like similar exit velos are going another 25, 30 feet because of this wind tunnel effect. Yeah. They were showing comparatives to like, look at this exit velo on the same wind conditions, the same everything last year, and it's like 20 feet short of the fence, just popping in the gloves.
Wow.
And then look at this Jose Ramirez swing right here. It's the exact same swing, exit velo, launch angle, everything, and it's 14 feet over the fence. It's a no doubter, and you're just like, wow, Stadium design.
And the Blue Jays reconfigure their walls to create an anti-wind tunnel, right? It blows the balls back out. We have not seen such a drought and power in Toronto since these walls have been reconfigured. And whether this actually is impacting the team or not, or whether it is just the players themselves, I mean, it's debatable. We'd need a wider sample size and more guys in Toronto. But you know who hasn't struggled hitting home runs in Rogers Center? Most other teams. So it does make you wonder a little bit about how much those reconfigured walls really have affected this team, or whether it's just this team lacks a cleanup hitter with power, lacks power in general, which, I mean, is not news to anyone who is listening to this. Obviously, this is the biggest Achilles heel of the team outside of the organization not being able to develop players from within, is the power on this team right now, right?
Well, it's a lot. I think a lot to do with it when I watch Baltimore, especially Adley Rushman's a perfect example of it. He's sacrificing his walk rate this year. His walk rate usually was 1-to-1, pretty close to 1-to-1, one walk for every strikeout. He is now about one walk for every 2 strikeouts, maybe even worse than that. What that has turned into is more power, more batting average, more runs being driven in. He's sacrificing the walks. Imagine he's giving up about 25 walks for about 10 to 12 more hits and about 6 to 7 more extra base hits, maybe 3-4 more home runs. And it just plays way better to your run production, especially if you're that type of player. A catcher getting a walk is very station to station, base to base, slow moving. If you've got an opportunity to put a swing on a ball and put it over the fence, you get to walk around the bases. You get to nonchalantly take your time. You could take 10 minutes to get around the bases if you wanted to. You could stop and make a phone call. The Pirates actually used to have phones when they go around the bases, so that's legitimately an option. But it's a situation where, you know, putting the ball in play is one thing, putting the ball in play for about 4 seconds so that it goes out of play again on the other side is something different altogether. And it's just, you can't be sitting there wasting the pitches that you can drive, is kind of the mentality. If there's something that you can hit and hit for power, you have to be ready to do it. And I think the Blue Jays have kind of gotten away from that. They still let pitches go. They're still sitting there watching a lot. And we're not a team that really can make the walk play when it comes to speed, right?
It's true, man. It is one aspect of this team that is lacking. I mean, one of a few aspects of this team, and speed is definitely one of them. I know Ellie De La Cruz has more stolen bases than the entire Toronto Blue Jays currently, and maybe that's not fair because Toronto didn't build this team around speed and stolen bases, which is another topic we can have for another day. Just the fact that obviously the league has set this, with the new rules, has set that aspect of the game up to be something you can take advantage of, and the Jays have chosen not to. So when they are on the bases, it can definitely get clogged up, especially when you got Vogie and Kirky and stuff like that out on the bases. Justin Turner is also a pretty much a station to station runner. And we will dive into balls put in play here in a moment. But first, I do want to really quickly just backpedal a little bit here and talk Davis Schneider. Leadoff hitter on this team since George Springer has been demoted down the lineup. It's probably not where he should be. He's not your prototypical leadoff hitter. I would much rather see Davis Schneider hitting probably 5. I think you would just optimize his production if you can have a few more people on base. Unfortunately, this is not an option that they've got. Davis Schneider, one of the Blue Jays who has a shot at being an all-star. So these are his numbers for the season. He's hitting .240. He's got 7 home runs, 30 RBIs, 45 hits, 3 stolen bases, and an OPS of 777. Now, just a reminder, the league average OPS for this season in 2024 is 699. So Davis almost a full 80 points higher than the average. Now, when you read those numbers off, they don't really pop off the page as all-star numbers. But I'll tell you, Joel, there's not a lot of numbers in this team that do pop off the page as all-stars. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., probably the one. Can you see Davis Schneider, if he continues this production and continues to be an above-average offensive force for this team, knowing that the Blue Jays need to send a few guys to the All-Star game, can you see Davis Schneider as a rookie, still with rookie status, getting the bump, getting that All-Star love?
If Whit Merrifield can make it, absolutely, Davis Schneider can make it as an All-Star. Davis Schneider is way more deserving than Whit Merrifield was last year. So, yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, there is a list, right? There is a list. We have former
Santiago Espinal.
I was just gonna say Santiago Espinal, right? I mean, we can even go way back and remember Raise the Bar, Steve Delabar, All-Star Steve Delabar.
Whoa.
Those were dark times, folks. Yes. And I love Steve Delabar.
Our setup man was our guy.
Yeah.
Kind of that situation again where like maybe like a Barrios gets a nod or something of pitching staff. But yeah, it's definitely not the like, and the entire Blue Jays infield are heading to the All-Star game, and we get to see them all be starters. They're all hugging and kissing, and look at that core. And they're all calling Lourdes and saying, "Hey, you should be here." It's like, that's not. See, it's really it's shocking to that we have this team. We lean so heavily on Bo and Vladdy, and they may not be there. Vladdy may, but it's first base, and you're always going to be competing against somebody who's probably slamming a few more home runs, driving in a few more RBIs. So does the batting average get you there? He's sitting around 285 right now. So, yeah, it's tough. It's tough when you don't have a surefire guaranteed all-star. If Danny Jansen were to have played probably a few more games, like he would probably in the mix. So yeah, maybe just not the people that you would expect, and that's kind of why it's a little disappointing. You're like, come on, Vladdy, be at 15 homers right now and be in the top 10 where you need to be.
I agree. And I mean, I hope Davis does make it to the All-Star game. I think that'd be a great story. This is a kid who has done nothing but produce in every spot that they have asked him to do so. Is he a superstar? No, he's not. Does he deserve to be there? It's debatable. I know I voted for him on my All-Star ballot. I'm biased, but I like the kid. And I think that if he does continue to produce, that he does have a shot at it. We're going to go back to the schedule here. So for everyone who is wondering why June keeps getting talked about like we are backs against the wall and it's do or die time, this is why. So the Oakland Athletics are the only team that they are going to face that is below 500. So that is today, tomorrow, and Sunday. From that point on, they then face the Milwaukee Brewers, who are 36 and 26. They then come home to face the Cleveland Guardians, who are right under the Yankees and 19 games above 500. Again, this is June 7th, folks. The Cleveland Guardians are a very, very good team this year. Their pitching is good. Their bullpen is good. And it just seems like this is a team that when they need to put the ball in play, they put the ball in play. From Cleveland, Boston comes to town. Now, the Boston Red Sox, they've been a thorn in everyone's side in the AL East. They're 32 and 31. After that, they go back on the road. The Jays are on the road. They go to Cleveland and then Boston. And then New York comes to town. The Yankees for a 4-game series. Then Houston for a 4-game series starting July. And then they go to Seattle and San Francisco and Arizona before the All-Star game. You need to get into July before you even face a team that's below 500. And who knows, San Francisco and Arizona, who are only 1 game below 500 each, could very well take step forwards and be formidable. I mean, they're as formidable right now as the Blue Jays are at 30 and 32.
We might be facing a Houston Astros team that has Trevor Bauer on
it. I mean, man,
been talked about.
Their pitching staff. I mean, it just was Christian Javier and
Luis Garcia.
Yes.
And
Urquidy.
Yeah, Urquidy and what's his name? Lefty Framber Valdez.
Yes. Dude, they all have season-ending Tommy John surgery. That's crazy. That's crazy. So I know that we were talking like the Astros might be able to climb out of this thing. As they keep getting dealt these pitching injuries, I think the Astros probably got to write this season off. Might be the first time they don't make the playoffs in 8 years. Forget about that. Might be the first time they don't make the ALCS in 8 years.
That's right.
As that is to say out loud. But couldn't happen to a better franchise, in my opinion. So when you look at the schedule, bottom line, the Blue Jays need to continue. They need to sweep Oakland, and then they need to keep their head above water. They need to be a 500 team going into July. If we expect any bolstering of this team from the front office, man, we could be singing a very different tune in 30 days. This could be a very sad podcast at that time while we're talking about all the guys that they need to sell off and strip down and the direction this team needs to go. And I'm writing about this right now. So I've got an article that's coming out hopefully tomorrow on Crier. And basically the whole premise of it is the not knowing is what's kind of killing this fan base, right? Like speaking for myself anyways, and I kind of bring up the example of I went to Mexico a few years ago and got to see some of the Mayan runes. And these runes are incredible, dude. And they used them to judge the shadows so that they could prove that the days are getting longer and shorter, because this was one thing that, of course, messed with humans for a long time, the days shortening and lengthening, right? It was just like a lot of our time in more primitive moments, right, were spent being like, is the sun going to come back up? And what can we do to make sure it does? So not only was it measuring the shadows, it was also used for worship and human sacrifice. So like a couple times a year, they would literally sacrifice humans because they just didn't know what weather and precipitation was. And they were just like, well, it worked once. Let's keep doing it, right? So, I mean, I'll give the Toronto Blue Jays fan base a lot of credit here. We haven't sacrificed anyone yet. You know, like we have kept our heads about us here, but we don't know what this is going to look like. We don't, like, every question that you wind up asking just leads to more questions. Is Mark Shapiro and his job safe? If so, is Ross Atkins' job safe? It better not be, which if that's the case, when are they going to pull the chute on him? Who are they going to replace him with? How deep does this cut go? Is this just we're getting rid of Ross Atkins and keeping a lot of the peripheral staff? I mean, the more questions you ask, the more you're like, well, it just leads to more questions.
Yeah.
So this June is incredibly important. I don't think that the past 18 months have shown me any reason to believe that they can get it together, that this team can be an above 500 team against some of the best teams in Major League Baseball over the next 30 days. I would love to see it.
Yeah, it's the future of the organization is right here, right now. Like it's are we re-signing our boys? Are we competitive? Are we blowing it all up? Who's going to be our GM? Who's going to be our president? Who's going to be our manager? All of these things will be figured out in 1 month, right? Like, who are we? Is right here and now. There's never been more pressure on this team. Can they handle the pressure? Do they know where they are? Because this is meat grinder is a perfect example. That's where we are. Play well now, or the season's shot. 1 month to put the meat where the metal is. Metal, I don't know, some sort of metaphor that makes us play good.
Hey, let's talk putting the ball in play. This was a stat. This was a stat, dude, that I was a little surprised to see. The Blue Jays put the ball in play a lot. So Houston and San Diego put the ball in play the most. This is the percentage of plate appearances where the batters put the ball into play. 70% is Houston and San Diego. 69% is Kansas City and Miami. 68% is Toronto. 67% is the New York Mets, the Texas Rangers, and the San Francisco Giants. 66% of the time is Arizona, Chicago White Sox, Cleveland Guardians, Baltimore Orioles, Washington Nationals. Now, one thing you will see is that the teams that are hitting it in play between 67% of the time and 70% of the time, there's only one team in there that's above 500, the Kansas City Royals. Kansas City Royals, also one of the fastest teams in all of baseball, get infield hits on the regular, steal bases on the regular, and score runs through a very 80s style of baseball. Houston, just plain bad. We can blame a lot of this on pitching. We just touched on that. San Diego also below 500 and has been disappointing. The Miami Marlins, who put the ball in play 69% of the time. And I mean, a lot of that was probably Luis Ariz before he even left, but also a horrible, horrible organization right now. So we are well aware the emphasis that Don Mattingly puts on putting the ball in play. It doesn't seem like this is maybe the route that should be being taken. I mean, we've talked about this a lot without the stats. It felt like power can save and fix a lot of blemishes. And power is something this team doesn't have. This team, very rarely do you see them down by 4 and pop a couple dingers to bring themselves right back into this thing. What is your general sense on putting the ball on play? Because it is a fun style of baseball to watch, unless you're just watching constant double plays and ground balls and teams kind of grinding them down. And you're looking up at the hits and you're like, how does this team have 3 hits in the 5th inning?
Yeah, and then the 9th inning.
Yeah.
Ball in play is don't get me wrong. I like contact. I hate swing and miss. Strikeouts can't create anything. They're just absolutely black holes when it comes to offense. So you don't want to strike out. But the difference between the 370-foot fly ball and the 390-foot fly ball is a run and however many people are on base compared to an out, right? It's power takes the worst outcome that you can have, just a fly ball out, and turns it into 1 to 4 runs on the board. And we're in this situation where last year we were looking at who the home run leaders were across the league and seeing that our guys were coming up about halfway short of that number, where the league leaders were 45, 46. Our team leader is 23.
Yeah.
Right. It's something ridiculous like that. We're on pace.
It was Vladdy. Again. It was Vladdy at 26. That was
sure.
the lead. That was the team leader in home runs last year. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with 26. Only guy to break 25, which is just wild.
We're on pace for that this year.
Yeah.
And less people having 15, right? Like Springer, where's he going to end up? Under 10? Where's Kiermaier going to end up? Under 10? Where's IKF going to end up? 10? Where's Kirk going to end up? Under 10? Like all of these guys, Turner might get 15, maybe. Like, where's the power? Bo 10?
Yeah.
Vladdy 20?
Bo Bichette, 10 home runs.
Like, where is it? It's all gone. You can't rely on the home run to win you the game, and the home run is the hit that wins you the most. So, the pitching, defense, and the 3-run homer. right? These are all elements to getting your victories, and we're missing one of them. We're missing the 3-run homer.
Joel, I'm really curious if we do wind up in a scenario where the power continues to be a problem. June guts us as fans, and the worst happens, which is this team continues to play like it has played over the last 18 months. And they just can't compete against these teams that are above 500 and wind up in a scenario where July we're all talking about rebuilding. I had a very interesting message from a Patreon member, John Dick. So shout out to John in Kelowna. He wrote a very, very thorough message about he truly doesn't believe that Rogers will allow a full rebuild in the way that maybe it would need to be done to do it properly. They did just invest $350 million into the stadium. They are making a lot of money, by the way. I don't have the numbers, but I will say, as someone who has been at the stadium the last couple days, which, by the way, were some of the lowest attended days of the year. Dude, the amount of merch and beer and concessions that they are selling, it is so much more than what it was last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago before all of these renos. They've done an incredible job of making it just in every corner, in every place in this stadium, there is ways to get your money. Will Rogers allow this team to be god awful? Because honestly, man, one of the scariest ideas about what we could possibly be seeing is Rogers refuses to allow a full teardown. Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro managed to keep their jobs and convince them to let them try again. They move one of Bo and Vladdy. Try and retool around whoever's left. And then you have this middling team. Okay. It's bleak. It's a bleak idea of what could happen. Now, listen, a retool can work. We saw the Boston Red Sox win a World Series in 2013 after being absolutely horrible. So there are examples of very positive regression on some of the guys that they keep, and then they bring in the right players around them. The team just gels and comes together in kind of a flash flood style thing, right? Where it's just everything works out. I'm not saying that can't happen. But do you see a world where Rogers actually lets them tear this team down? Or do you think it's possible that they just care that there's 30,000 people in the crowd because 30,000 is just enough where no matter what happens, they're going to make money hand over fist?
Is it going to be that situation where like the Bo poster comes down and the Vladdy poster comes down and the Gosman poster comes down and then a David Justice poster gets unfurled and you're like, wait a minute, no, you can't do that now. Come on. Right. You have to look at the next 30 days and you have to make a hard decision. And the hard decision, if we're not competitive, is blow the entire thing up. Yeah. Blow the entire thing up mid-season. Like that's the hard decision, but get rid of your president, get rid of your GM, get rid of your manager, do it all. If you can't compete this season, you're wasting time by waiting till the off season. This is time now. This is time to do something now, right? Why hey, I've got this cancerous tumor. We can take it out of you now, or we can wait till you can take some time off of work 4 months from now, and you're going to lose your leg and you're going to lose your testicle. And like, you're going to you have a 50% chance of death. Then we can take it out now though. But just some sort of like, oh, it's inconvenient. No, fuck inconvenience. Fuck all that shit. Make the right business decisions.
And I agree. I agree 100%. I think that this has to be done right. I don't know it needs to be torn down right to the guts, you know, like, but I do think that the front office needs to go.
Yeah.
I don't think
they need to go now because either we don't want them to make the moves. Okay. This is the moment to make the moves. They have to be gone. Yeah. It's just that simple. This is right now. You can save 3 years. You cannot do the Ohtani route. We cannot do let the commodity train leave town with nothing in return and then be stuck here as a loser for a decade when there was endless. You can become Baltimore when it comes to prospects in one fall swoop. Everyone goes. Gosman goes, Kikuchi goes, Barrios goes, Vladdy goes, Bo goes, everyone goes, Danny goes, and we cry and we're sad. But you know what? There's a chance that those prospects come in and are pretty damn close to the team we have right now next year, right? You go and get top end prospects and you put them in the CJ Abrams types, these players who are on the cusp, who need a little bit, who have a good regime around them to get them to the next level quicker. Hell, we've got the facilities. Now we just need the people to run the fucking facilities. And you get that, and then you get to where you need to be on much quicker turnaround. But if we wait and we flutter around and we kick our legs in the water, the sharks are going to come, rip us to shreds. We're going to be 5th place for a decade. You do it here and now, or you don't do it.
I mean, we're 5th place right now, and we're 5th place right now, and that's another thing to really keep your mind on when it comes to this proposed rebuild, is that the Yankees currently sit at 45-19. The Jays are 14 games back of the Yankees for the division lead. 14 games back. Folks, it is June 7th. The Orioles are 39-22. The Jays are 10 games back of the Orioles. And then you look at the Red Sox 32-31, the Rays 31-31. Can you see a world where this team improves enough over the next year or two to contend in the division? I just don't see it. Now, I am concerned that Mark Shapiro is probably about as safe as you can get. The truth is, Mark Shapiro has done literally everything he promised Rogers Communication, the Blue Jays ownership group, that he would do, right? He's overseen the massive $350 million renovation to Rogers Center that is raking in money, hand over fist, in concessions. I mentioned the merch, City Connect. They've got actual City Connect stores that are just selling it, just the City Connect. Assuming one of the largest, most profitable corporations in Canada is primarily concerned with just that, which is probably a safe assumption, right? I mean, they want money. It's why they're in this. They're in it to profit. So does Shapiro share in the blame for where this team is at? Yeah, of course he does. But he did just make the rich richer, which is a really good way, Joel, of making sure you keep your job. Which just leads to more questions again, right? Like,
what's he's like the sheriff of Nottingham, you know? Kind of like, that's what it feels like to me, making the rich richer and taking the money out of the poor's hands, making the rich richer. And this is a tax, here comes the government tax. And I want a band of like miscreants out in a jungle right now to come in with bows and arrows.
So the real question here is Rogers going to feel enough pressure from the fan base to at least force Shapiro's hand into firing Ross Atkins and rebuilding a front office around whoever the new general manager is? I don't know, man. I literally wish I had a strong sense of being like, of course, how can Ross Atkins possibly keep his job? But the answer is the corporate ownership doesn't really give a shit because they're making money. And if they can convince their boardroom committee that they made a few errors along the way and give us another chance here, you know what? We're going to be better than starting from scratch. maybe they can sell him. And if that's the case, does this fan base make them feel it in the pocketbook by not going to games? Which is such a shitty proposition to put on the fans, that I need to deny myself one of my favorite things in the world, Blue Jays baseball, to force some corporate ownership's hand. It shouldn't be on me. It should be on the team's record, where they're at, and the smartest play. And I'm having a tough time buying that it is.
You said Shapiro has met all of his promises that he had promised the organization. The fact is, the problem is that none of those promises was winning.
Yeah.
None of, hey, here's your contract. This. It doesn't say to win a World Series on here. That's not a part of this. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's still, hey, if you win, that's cool, but that's not what we're in it for. And it's, I've always felt that with him, that his priorities are just not, he's not some guy who's up all night gutting him. He's not Billy Martining himself and only caring about winning, right? Like it's the way that you're able to smile through these press conferences and put on this face. It's so political. It feels like they've turned baseball into this, it's political aspirations. Like you said, it's selling people. It's a used car salesman. It's that. It's not just some guy with bags under his eyes who goes, put it all on me. I'm going to eat terrible food. I'm not going to, my body is going to fall apart because I don't have time to work out. My social life is going to deteriorate. I'm going to divorce my wife. My kids are going to hate me. All of these things. But you know what? All I give a fuck about is winning. Right? Yeah. All I give a fuck about is winning. Where's that? I will sacrifice everything that is me as a human being to make sure that this team wins games. I want that press conference. The only thing I care about is winning. Where's that guy? Where's the onus is on me. The buck stops here. The check is in the mail.
This is why, Joel, it's so hard to be positive about this team right now. It's the unknowing. And whenever you don't know things, it's just like, how do you buy in when there's no plan? It feels like we are the plastic bag in American Beauty, right? And we're just aimless. We're beautiful. It's a gorgeous sight, right? But we're just floating with no aim or direction. And as a fan of a team, it's a very scary endeavor to be watching, right? Like, even I'm looking at the offensive stats between the Blue Jays and the Oakland Athletics currently. So the RBI leader for the Blue Jays is Dalton Varsho, 31. Brent Rooker has 39. Yes. Yeah. Home runs, Dalton Varsho, 10. Brent Rooker has 12. Batting average, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hitting 295. Miguel Andujar hitting 311 for the Oakland Athletics. And listen, I love Dalton Varsho. I think he has literally panned out as well as this organization could have hoped for, which is, yeah, he's on pace to hit 25 to 30 home runs. He's on pace to hit 90 RBIs. He's going to get you those bunt singles and infield hits that no one else is getting. He's got speed to go first to home. He is a vacuum in the outfield. One of the best defensive outfielders in all of baseball. The fact that he's your offensive juggernaut just really goes to show you how broken this team is, man. Because Dalton Varsho should be third or fourth on this team in home runs. He should be. He would be on almost any other team. Obviously, there's exceptions, but almost any other team, start digging into everyone else's home run totals. 10 is going to be third or fourth on most teams. I've kind of talked myself into a hole here where I don't even know where to go, right? Like it's just I can't see this offense being good enough to get through the meat grinder that is June. I know we started this podcast with saying we're going to try really hard to be positive and even fall into delusion a little bit. But it's so hard when you look at the past and what has gone on and what has led us to this point, and then looking forward, and you're like, how does anything change?
Yeah, you you look at those Yankees and they've got the two best bats in all of baseball, back to back. Soto, Judge. Judge is on another level right now. Judge is winning games by himself. Soto is winning games by himself. I know he came out of the game yesterday, I think, with some elbow forearm tightness. So we'll see what that is. But yeah, this
is all without Garrett Cole too, Joel.
Yes, all without Garrett Cole, and it's
who's coming back in a week.
Yeah, it's your comparison there to Oakland when you say, hey, Oakland isn't that different of a team lineup wise, right? That's the whole that you're like, wait, what? Yeah. One team literally doesn't care that they exist right now. One team is literally just they don't even consider themselves a major league team. They don't have a home, whatever. And it's like, and we're the third highest payroll, second, whatever, top 5 payrolls, and arguably right there. So it's just like, how can a team that literally doesn't care who their players are and a team that has spent as much money as you can to acquire players be in the same boat? We're in the same boat. What's going on? It's scary. It's terrifying. We don't hit home runs anymore. Home runs are fun.
Until questions like, why does this front office keep doubling down on its mistakes? How much longer can we expect Ross Atkins to be allowed to make decisions? Is Mark Shapiro's job safe? How deep does this front office arrogance run? How is it even possible they still, after all this time, think they're the smartest baseball minds in any room? Is John Schneider anything but a dead man walking right now? Is Bo Bichette completely checked out? Like, these are all questions we have no answers to. And until we start getting some answers to that, it is so hard to buy into this team because, again, it feels like a plastic bag blowing in the wind right now.
Well, Bo being checked out is 100% true. Bo doesn't even get frustrated anymore. Bo doesn't even get angry on mistake. Like Bo will get called out on a pitch off the plate and he'll just go, whatever. And he just doesn't care. He doesn't slam the bat. He doesn't get frustrated. He doesn't get angry. It's a weird play, but the balk yesterday where he went to second base and Bowden Francis turned to make a throw and it was a balk. Bo's just like, whatever. I don't give a shit anymore. Like, it happened and he just shrugged his shoulders and went, whatever. We don't like, he doesn't care. And I'm like, what is that like in the locker room? What's that like when you walk by Bo and you know that he's checked out? And it's just like, it takes a lot for a guy who loves baseball that much to check out. And it's not, I don't blame Bo. I don't blame Bo because Bo has said the right thing for years, knowing that the pieces were being removed. And now that they're at the point of no return where he knows that the pieces aren't there. And it's just lip service. Oh yeah, we'll see what we can do. And he doesn't believe it anymore. He did before. He did for years. And he'd say like, oh, we just have to try to put the pieces together. Those guys going, I'm sad Marcus is gone. I'm sorry, sad all these guys. No, it's like, but now it's the realization that those guys gone it leaves a team that can't compete. And he knows that. He knows that as much as we know that, but not as much as the front office does, though.
Yeah.
And it's just scary. It's just scary. And you gotta, we're depressed here, as much as he loves the game, for him to be in it and constantly hear that, it's just like, what am I fighting for? Why am I constantly going out there and giving everything I have when the team around me, what we're building here we don't have the same goals. I want to win.
And honestly, Joel, what's interesting is I am getting a completely different vibe from Vladdy. I am seeing more fight out of him. I'm seeing more passion out of Vladdy. In fact, even at the press conference last night after the win, when they asked him about going forward, and he's like, we haven't done enough yet. Like, yeah, we split this series. We went 5-1 against the teams we had to. That is just the tip of the iceberg. And you don't hear Vladdy talk like that, right? Like, it's just interesting to see, which is like, maybe we are at a point where can you convince Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to sign 3 more years and become a free agent again at 28 after giving some runway to really improve his numbers and become that at 28 guy where, yes, they are going to give him 10 years, 300 million. I don't know what that would look like or what that would cost, but if there is someone that I want to stick around while we go through some dark times, I mean, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is such a fun dude to watch, and I think a little less pressure, he could be good for young guys coming up. I know there's a lot of people who think Vladdy is the big problem here. I just don't buy it. I don't think he is. I think that this is a systematic problem that stems right from the top from Mark Shapiro down. I think that there's a lot of rot within the coaching staff, and I don't think that this is a happy clubhouse. And I mean, how do you be a happy clubhouse when your back's against the wall and you're constantly losing and feel like you're underperforming? I don't know. Yeah. We'll leave you with the pitching for this Oakland series, and we'll get out of here. And fingers crossed that they do really well against the Athletics over the weekend, and that Joel, we're sitting down on Sunday for a long toss, and we're going, well, look at this. This team's above 500 for the first time since early April. Is there cause for hope? I mean, I'm guessing that
10-3 in our last 13, we can maybe say that, that's.
So they are going to have the Hound on the mound tonight, and that is going to be against an opener for the Oakland Athletics, because that is where the Athletics are at, right? Put whoever in the first inning up that you can. It's Hogan Harris that is going to be taking the ball for them. Tomorrow, we are going to see, let me pull that up here. It's funny, I had all of this lined up and then started flipping through other stats, and this is where we're at. So it's going to be Luis Medina taking the mound for the Oakland Athletics and Kevin Gausman for the Toronto Blue Jays. And then finally, to wrap the series up on Sunday, we have our boy who's pitching for this team on Sunday. Why is it not coming up?
Barrios, right?
Yeah, it should be Barrios.
Or is it, are they doing is it going to be an opener situation on?
Yeah, because of the Manoah thing. So that's what I was going to see here. Yeah. Yet to be determined. One of those.
That's probably that spot right there.
Yeah. So probably my guess is some sort of opener, maybe Trevor Richards again going into Bowden Francis. Yariel Rodriguez is getting close to coming back. So fingers crossed that he can contribute to this team in a positive way. And on that, what a whimper. What a way to end this podcast on a whimper, but that's all right. For all of you on the grounds crew, we appreciate you very much. Feel free to drop your comments below. We do have mailbag on Tuesday, so we'll get to as many of those as possible. Where are you at on this team? Do you have some hope that maybe they can come out of this June with their head above water? And if so, that would signify hopefully some buying and an attempt by this front office to fix some of these holes, these glaring holes with this team. Do you think that the front office is safe? Which is a real question here. Like, is this front office even on a hot seat? You would think Ross Atkins has to be. But who knows? Is Mark Shapiro? I would be surprised. And you can always reach out on mailbag with specific questions and comments at Walk Off Podcast on Instagram or on Twitter, the Walk Off Podcast on Instagram. Baseball Town, we have our guests all finalized. So the panel is going to be a doozy. Caitlin McGrath got back to me. She is from the Athletics, so she is going to be one of our panelists. Scotty Mitchell from TSN is going to be joining us down at the Danforth Comedy Bar. And then we have Keegan Matheson, friend of the show, Keegs of MLB.com, rounding out the panel. We're going right back to the roast battles. It is going to be the Toronto Blue Jays defending their title against the Boston Red Sox. Angelica Scanura facing off against fellow comedian and very funny Cam Phoenix. And then finally, our guest of the evening is going to be Lizzie McGuire. Some of you might know her as the lady who took the 110-mile-hour foul ball in the face. So It's going to be a really good show. I will leave the ticket link for that in the comments section. Feel free to grab those now while they're still around and spread the word. Baseball Town, a really fun place to all of us get together and complain about the front office in a safe space. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for your patronage. We'll talk to you later. See you on Sunday for Long Toss.